Okay, forming the tail wheel forks that actually hold the wheel, span the wheel, they need to be spread in a bit of an arc. So I'm going to show you flattened, and die that I used was a piece of steel I used from an aircraft many years ago. I put that in here on the piece, and here I can see by putting pressure on this homemade die, I can bend the radius in here for what I need to arc the tail wheel. Then I'll take and mark the piece. You see there, you can see that the piece has the arc I need, and down here I need to cut it so that it will taper more or less to a point. And what I did here was I marked it and I cut out a wedge out of the center, and now I'm bending it together. Bend it in this vise. It's a little hard with one hand, but I'll get it. Now I'll squeeze it together like that in a vise, and that's where I'll heat it a little bit so it stays, and then I'll weld along that seam, and that will create a little bit of a tapered arc fork. Simple fashion. A little bit of blacksmithing here. Okay, here I have welded the fork arms onto the tail wheel shaft. You can see I lay it on top of a copy of the drawings to get the dimensions right. I need to put 2 strips in here yet, and 2 lugs on here. Shorten it up so that it fits this Fairhawk tail wheel. Here's the top piece I made. I turned this little piece here, welded a stiffener on there, machined that out on the milling machine, and put the pin in. There's a spring inside there and a pin so that that can arc slide back to release. Made these out of a piece of 3/16 4130. Shaped them with a little airfoil and machined and welded up the center yoke, this center housing, which gets fastened to the aircraft via this spring steel. This round rod is spring steel that will absorb the impact and flex a bit. I have bearings that I purchased from here to build up the tail wheel. Other parts for the axle and wheel bearings. So here I'm using a angle grinder with a nice emery wheel on it that works really nice on metal. It's polished. You can see I can polish in the areas. Finishing out the basic form of the tail wheel. Now I need to add the bushings on that bottom. So now on the tail wheel we need to weld these bushings in here. Instead of thinking of welding each of them on individually and maybe put a spacer between and bolting them, I took a piece of stock that's the right size for the bushing, left it full length, random length really, and welded it. I clamped this whole unit in the vise and I put a square on it to make sure that it's all squared up and will be true to its axes on all directions, and welded that tube in there. Now I'll cut it apart, cut out the middle section, cut the end here, and everything will be lined up perfectly. Here's the fully assembled tail wheel, and this will be a cam that unlocks it. It will hold it in its normal turning position, but when you on the ground and want to spin the aircraft 180 degrees, this cam will pull that pin out, unlock the shaft so that the tail wheel can spin completely around on its axis. That's a fun project to make. A lot of little machine parts, weldings, and assembly. Hallelujah. Look at that. They are circling overhead. There's the eagle and the hawk. It's a sign. Heavens are open for the flight I'm about to make.